And welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. Mike Bosak, one of the very active members of the Landmark Society of Greater Utica, is with us. And I know you're always looking for members, yes?
Oh, absolutely, we are.
What does it
I think
cost?
a lot of people are very interested in preserving old buildings. I get that a lot, and even a lot of younger people, and I'm very gratified of that. A lot of service organizations tend to lose members and all that because you don't have the interest, but a lot of younger people are interested in older buildings and redeveloping them, and I think that's what we are seeing a lot of the renaissance in downtown Utica, with younger people not being afraid to go in there and put in coffee shops or sandwich shops or buy these buildings and turn them into lofts. So it's a real wonderful time for a preservationist in Utica.
You know what I tell people too, Mike? They say, well, I don't have time to join the Oneida County History Center. I just don't have the time. I said, well, join anyway. I said, you might have time somewhere down the road, but just joining, just becoming a member is, shows a great deal of support.
It does, and it's very important for organizations like the Oneida County History Center and for Landmark Society to have members who join and you know, be as active as you can be or want to be, but it's important to show those numbers because it speaks volumes in terms of getting grants, in terms of you know, when you're applying for any kind of grants or
when you're going to local politicians. I mean, if you're a 10-member organization,
right, they won't really look at you.
Yeah,
but if you have 400 or 500 members, they start to take notice.
Right. We've got a couple of buildings that are celebrating this year. Mike, I did a TV show on. We went down there and did a show at historic St. John's, 200th anniversary. 200th
anniversary of the parish, yes. It's the oldest parish in New York State, I believe. And they're a great organization in a wonderful building. Yeah. They've kept that up very well.
It really has been kept up well. And then not too far away, the Stanley Theater is celebrating 90 years.
90. Yeah. And that's another one, that another gem that was very threatened and almost lost. And fortunately, the Central New York Community Arts Organization went in, stepped in, bought it, and it's just been great ever since. You know, and I have to shout out to Jerry Krause.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that Jerry is really, he's been a huge part of that really coming around.
Well, you look around and the other day we were going down Genesee Street. I forget what was playing there. We didn't go. But Genesee Street was packed.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it was so nice on a weekday night, and Genesee was packed.
And that has a spillover effect for all of the restaurants and bars. And if it's an overnight type of a thing, where there are several of these types of events, that helps the hotels and you know, the coffee shops and everything else.
Well, I know one night we tried to get into one of those restaurants, and there was a hockey game that night, and there was something at the Stanley, so you could forget getting any of those places on Genesee Street. They were all packed.
If you say that there's nothing to do in Utica, you're not looking hard enough.
Yeah. The endangered buildings that we have, Landmarks used to put out a list. Do you still do that?
We still do that, yes. It's gotten a little few and far between these days. There are quite a few that are endangered. We have lost a few in the past recently that it's most unfortunately we have. The Ivy Cottage comes to mind and all, and there was a pretty historic carriage house in Clinton that was lost just this past summer, unfortunately. They do come down, and of course what we refer to as the Dagwell building on Varick Street, which was, a lot of people refer to it as Holly Rock. It was the
pillars, the white pillars,
yes. Classical building there that was demolished needlessly, in my estimation.
The one that has always stuck out in my mind, and I think this helped give rise to Landmarks, was the demolition of Utica's old City Hall.
Sure. I think that that was the bellwether where things really turned around. It was right after urban renewal, took a huge swath of downtown. And if you ever go up to what used to be the observation deck in the state office building, you can actually see, it looks like a scar right down the middle of the city where a lot of these very ornate, very stately buildings were once stood, and are now gone, and you can sort of see the swath that went right through the middle of the city. And yes, City Hall was one that I'm sure a lot of people regret now that it was taken down.
I talked to somebody in government once, and they told me that the cities that came about the best were the ones that didn't have an urban renewal project back in the 50s and 60s.
Very true. Yeah. Very true. Larger cities that had them could bounce back quicker, but Utica being a smaller city, it took a long time to bounce back.
The other thing about urban renewal was that I think of some of the streets that don't even exist anymore because of urban renewal. I'm trying to think of the street where City Hall was.
Pearl Street?
Pearl Street, yep. Pearl Street was.
That disappeared. Part of Washington Street disappeared.
Yeah.
And when at the time, the Sheridan was put in. And that land sat vacant for about 10 years. I worked for the city at the time, and we were surveying that I don't know how many times before the Sheridans were actually built.
The Utica Memorial Auditorium, now the Adirondack Bank Center at the Utica Memorial Auditorium, that's a landmark.
It is. It's more than 50 years old. It did receive an engineering award because of the way it's constructed, and a lot of modern landmarks are landmarks because of the engineering. One that would come to mind would be the Utica Auditorium. One would be the certainly the building, the number 7 Rucker Park building, which is wonderfully cantilevered. The landmarks fought that at the beginning, but now we embrace it. And Munson Williams Art Museum as well.
We got to go, but anybody that wants to look at those dates or those events can do so on your website, yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Or
good to
Facebook.
see you.
Good to see you too, John.
That's going to do it for us this week. We'll be back next week. Till then, take care of yourself, everybody.